Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are back in live on a Monday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thank you so much for making us a part of your beautiful and glorious day. We are live on all platforms. Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms known to man. To like, subscribe, and follow. Hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future past shows. We got so much to unpack, and I'm really excited about this. So, as we basically have seen, South Carolina has basically won the national title for the women's college basketball championship. What a tournament. What a year for women's sports as a whole. Congratulations to South Carolina. What a game we have gotten in. What a year we basically have had. So let's touch upon that. So congratulations to South Carolina for winning the national title against Iowa and Caitlin Clark. And by the way, this is probably one of the most unbelievable college basketball atmospheres. And I would also say another one of our sport atmospheres as well. It has been a long, long time for women's sports to have a come up just like this. And in fact, they did. It was the most unbelievable event that you could think of in all of sports, whether in collegiate level or in the major pro sports level. In the end, South Carolina and their head coach, Don Staley, has ultimately produced one of the best products that they've had in their program. I mean, many could argue. I mean, I've spent years watching Connecticut women's sports for a long time, and usually Connecticut's women's basketball program has always been top-notch best. And then for years, you kind of sprinkle in LSU, you sprinkle in South Carolina, and you end up sprinkling some Iowas. But ultimately, in the end, it all came down to this, and that is where South Carolina and Iowa made it probably one of the most entertaining sports games I think we have seen ever in women's sports history. And this is what it deserves. It deserves all the many credits. It deserves all the many praises in the world when it comes to women's sports as a whole, and then in the end, people who watch basketball as a whole. You could not tell me that you were on that television last night and you could not just do anything but appreciate the fact that we just love sports. And we love the fact of how the outcome turned out in the end. In South Carolina, they're nabbed champions, and rightfully so. But there's a few takeaways in the end of this. First of all, one takeaway is South Carolina and Dawn Staley has produced a great program there. They have. They may not have produced a Caitlin Clark, but it doesn't matter. South Carolina, they had one of their star women athletes who moved from Brazil to the States, and she ultimately played in a collective game with everyone that was on the floor. And it still managed to be entertaining. Number two is, did you see the overall ratings in that game and the views that it was alone? 18.7 million views. That's the most watched game in women's history. The most watched game. And you all, including myself, glued my eyes to that television because it was well worth it when you've got Caitlin Clark on the floor and you've got South Carolina with their star program. The third thing is, just because Iowa lost the national title game does not mean this hindered Caitlin Clark's stock in the WNBA draft. It had nothing to do with it. Caitlin Clark initially is what shaped up women's basketball for the longest time, because there were many star athletes in women's basketball that have made a huge contribution to the sport. You watch Breanna Stewart in college until she made it to Seattle, and now she's playing in New York. Then you watch Sue Bird. You watch multiple other women athletes there. And arguably, they're one of the best of the best. Hell, Candace Parker was one of the best in Los Angeles until she went back home into Chicago, wins a championship. And then she wins another one by going to Vegas. So she's won initially 3 titles: Los Angeles, Chicago, and Las Vegas. And the sport is growing bigger. And this was the best year all time for women's sports. But it does not hinder Caitlin Clark's draft stock at all. She will still be the number 1 overall pick in Indiana because you know what you're getting from a product. But then I'd say Angel Reese is number 2. I would also say that, who was it? Cordosa, I believe, for South Carolina. She will be 3 or maybe 4, and then you sprinkle in 2 more. And you're going to have 5 impactful players in this league. The WNBA is going to be so exciting by the time tip-off starts, because in the end, this is probably the most unbelievable events I think we have ever had in women's sports as a whole. But it's so damn good when we have star athletes and we have gifted athletes, generational stars, and one of them that just so happens to be domestic here in the States. It just so happens to. NBA better get on the same page. There's 2 bites. There's 2 bites to show you. One is the head coach, Dawn Staley, and then her most powerful message to Caitlin Clark.
Coach, you're one of the toughest to ever come out of Philly. We don't see these tears from you often. Why tonight? We serve an unbelievable God. We serve uncommon favor. Uncommon favor. Unbelievable. So proud. So proud. I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load
for our sport. And it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games, and we appreciate you.
There's no doubt about that. Dawn Staley said it best. And then in the end, it was one of the greatest years for women's sports and for women's college basketball. Congratulations to South Carolina and to Dawn Staley, the head coach, who had basically poured blood, sweat, and tears for this program for a very long time. And South Carolina, they've produced an awful lot of great talents. They produced Cardoso this year. They've produced Asia Wilson, and they produced multiple others as well out of the program. And it's only going to get better from here. Now, the second part of this is, what now with Caitlin Clark? Well, look at exactly the year Caitlin Clark has basically had, and not just in women's college basketball, but the year she's had in collegiate sports as a whole. There will arguably not be another athlete like that for a very long time. And Caitlin Clark proved to you that she put everything on the floor. And she had arguably the hardest weights to carry on her shoulders. But yet she carried it with a lot of adversity. Like, she knew how to overcome it. And then in the end, she held herself accountable. She's also somebody that basically has played in the biggest stage and yet wowed us all. And then in the end, she's very humble when it comes to the sport as a whole. This is why the NBA, and if you want to know why that the NBA's ratings and men's college basketball ratings were not as great as women's college basketball this year, is because look around you. The NBA is more international today than it has ever been. I mean, yeah, we've had international stars, but they've never taken a leap like this before. They never have. And so when you look at, from the basketball standpoint, our domestic players that we've had over the years in basketball that was so polarizing was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Kareem, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell. We've had at some times, and we've even had a few spurts when it came to Wilt, when it came to Dr. J, when it came to now LeBron. They were very much polarizing stars, and all domestic here in the States. Now, I've got Giannis, I've got Luka, I've got Wemby, and I've got Jokic. All international stars built very differently from the ground up in the biggest stage possible. And they just do it all. But then when you look at Caitlin Clark, and if you put her in the NBA, there is no denying that she would honestly be the Steph Curry of women's basketball. She is. She made it look so easy. Did you see what the first half of that game, at least in like the first few minutes, she put up 18 points all on her own. And those shots, she made it look easy. She made it look so simple. When in the end, I mean, she was very dominant in every way possible. So Caitlin Clark, of course, is the unanimous and is the obvious #1 overall pick for the Indiana Fever. She has got to be. Because there is no way a polarizing star like that doesn't go #1. And for many people to realize this game did not hinder Caitlin Clark's product. It did not. She is still the #1 overall pick. She has broken multiple records in women's history especially in women's basketball. And she has given everything back to the sport. And this is initially what we should, as sports fans as a whole, be very appreciative of. Caitlin Clark is one of one, much like you look at many other star women athletes in the world that come in and they play the game and they shape the game. Once Caitlin Clark, and I've even mentioned this to my network at Sports Wave Network, because we do intend, when it comes to play-by-plays, we intend to get Caitlin Clark as many times on our streaming platforms as possible, because she's just that polarizing. Her first game in an Indiana uniform, and not to mention the first game in the WNBA. You are damn right we will be there to showcase it and watch it. Of course we will. It'll be a great hangout. And then by the time she faces off against New York and Las Vegas and Seattle and Los Angeles, and hell, even when they're facing Connecticut, the Connecticut Sun, or the Minnesota Lynx, this is arguably going to be the best year in WNBA history. And we have never had that for a very long time. We've never had that for God's sakes, for as long as I've lived. I mean, we've had so many of them. Lisa Leslie. We've had Asia Wilson. We've had Candace Parker. We've had Brianna Stewart. We've had Sue Bird. We have Kelsey Plum. Now we get Caitlin Clark in the middle of it, and Angel Reese and Cardoza and so many other really, really talented women athletes there. I mean, how could you not love this? I've always said this, that when it comes to diversity in our society, I have no problems with it at all. I love it with the fact that women are making a killing in the industry, and then even in the sports world as a whole. Because I grew up watching girls softball. I did. I watched girls softball. I watched Jenny Finch. I watched multiple other girls softballs whenever it was, the Olympic team that faced off. They were so dominant, and they played very, very well. And then even college softball. Like, you watch Oklahoma's product be so dominant for years and years and years. And then there were many others. You sprinkle in Oregon's, you sprinkle in, Texas, you sprinkle in so many other different programs. I mean, the Women's College World Series was always fun to watch. Even when you had Men's College World Series in baseball, they were both equally fun to watch. But in this era, I mean, I have many connections with people. I just talked to Kim Becker. I talked to many other women that are in the industry who are ultimately making the come up. They are grinding every single day to be the best that they possibly can be in their roles, and I'm for it. I am all for it. I am a big believer in strong diversity in our society, because in the end, it doesn't matter at all. If you have the brains, if you have if you got it, if you got the it factor to be in this industry or to be in this sport as a whole, if you got the it factor, you belong. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about any of the materialistic things. Doesn't matter about some of the other small things. That's why I'm like, Caitlin Clark will get all the credit where credit is due. She had an unbelievable season. She will be unbelievable when it comes to the WNBA, and she will continue to be unbelievable throughout her career. Thank you, Caitlin Clark, for making this year so entertaining and so dominant in women's sports, because women wanted that, and they needed that. They needed that polarizing star. It doesn't matter the sport, but they wanted that polarizing star that just gives you the best day in and day out. Good stuff. And like I said, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, I mean, this is just the most unbelievable turn of events that we basically have had in women's sports and even in sports as a whole. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You don't think I will be glued to that television when the WNBA tip-off starts and when Caitlin Clark is out on the court and she gets her first shot? I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. And to many women that are out there watching this show and even watching the lives, I'm pulling for big-time diversity no matter what the profession, no matter what exactly like the road that is paved for every single one of them. I hope for the best of successes. I really do. Because it should be equal. It should be very equal in our society. No matter how many times they try to divide us in multiple ways. I mean, our society could be very much tone deaf. It could be tone deaf, but in the end, we all know that we, the masses, are the ones that make the difference. That's in both men and women. That's in different cultures. That's in different ethics. Like, for real. I think it's the most incredible year that women's college basketball has had in a very long time. Good stuff. We got a lot to talk about. But I will tell you this. My brain literally hurt for like 2 days straight over the weekend. And sometimes I have to hold myself accountable for the fact of allowing myself to really get caught in the lights. But I've got a lot to basically talk about. We will have our mock draft, number 2 of 3, tomorrow. You guys do not want to end up missing out on that. But the whole point of it is that we're basically talking about multiple teams. And then at the same time, we are basically looking at, we're looking at from multiple angles all the way around what it will be like basically come the draft night. There's going to be a lot of movements tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. There's going to be a lot of different movements. There is going to be a lot of different changes, and I'm all for it. All right, folks. Well, as I've said before, that when you sign up on BetUS.com, 200% bonus and 30 risk-free bets. For those of you that even missed out on the contest, there's no worries. We've got you covered because BetUS has been king at the sports books for over 30 years. BetUS has you covered on every kind of sports book, whether it's straight bets, parlay leg bets, whatever your desire is. The MLB season is finally in full swing. We've got lots of bet lines for Major League Baseball. Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs are around the corner, and there are many bet lines ready for you to choose from. Place your bets and go on and be a winner. And also check out our casino entertainment as well for most of you that love slots, that love all kinds of different casino entertainment. BetUS has you covered on that as well. Go online to BetUS.com and don't miss out on the daily contests that are going on right this moment here on BetUS. BetUS, where the game begins.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Don't lose your seat when you go online to SeatGeek.com and download it on your mobile device or Google Play in the App Store. When you do use SeatGeek, use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save yourself $20 off of your next event. Whether it's going to your next sporting event with baseball already in full swing and also playoff games for both basketball and in hockey, following your favorite artists to your favorite concert venues or many other shows of your choice, SeatGeek has you covered to making sure you don't lose your seat at your next event. That's SeatGeek.com, promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off. All right, so I really got to tap into this very quickly because over the weekend, I kind of just, listen, I have to manage social media as a whole. Sometimes I kind of get a little bit carried away and I have to basically hold myself accountable at times. But I love sports and I love talking sports with many of my closest friends and many of my closest colleagues. And in the end, the feelings are all mutual. It doesn't matter exactly whether good or bad, whatever. It's always sports. It's a fun thing. And we could just respect the fact that sports has given us content every single day. But I was basically having a conversation with a Tua defender when it came to the Miami Dolphins, what went wrong and all the rest of this other stuff. And I kind of got a little bit carried up under the lights. And like I said, sometimes, and even my wife calls me out on it. She's like, you're too much on your phone. You're too much on social media. So I have to basically hold myself accountable. But here's the deal. Okay, and I'm going to be real as I possibly can about the Miami Dolphins. Okay, I like Tua. All right, I do. And Tua's career got resurrected the second Mike McDaniel came in the building. You weren't getting that from Brian Flores, who arguably is a really good defensive mind. He's one of the best right now in the league. But you weren't getting that with Brian Flores. And usually defensive coaches, you're never going to get that an awful lot because they tend to be defensive. They tend to pull the reins very hard. They don't allow some of their offensive pieces to really go off. They don't allow their offensive pieces to march downfield, get you first downs, or even get you pivotal scores that will keep you in the game. That's why, when it comes to offensive players, you got to score more than 25 points. That was what was the biggest problem with Tua initially in his rookie career. And so he'd been benched multiple times, but then finally, once he got Mike McDaniel, things changed. And that's where initially, when you watch Tua and his play, yes, he has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Yes, the offensive line is starting to get better and better week in and week out. But here's the hardest part for the Miami Dolphins. Okay, if you look at yourself in the mirror, and if you really want to be honest, for many Dolphin fans out there, will Tua ever bring a Super Bowl to South Beach? I'm going to be hard on you and say no. No, he will not. But you are going to get a fun side of Tua where he's throwing the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and multiple other offensive pieces. Plus, he has a really good run game. when it comes to Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert. They've got arguably the fastest offense that I think we've seen ever. And the offensive line, outside of Teron Armstead and multiple others up in the front, it's probably going to need a little bit of some restructuring and a little bit of some rebuilding. But the offensive line is going to be great. The offensive line will be much, much better. Now, they did lose an awful lot of pieces, including Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, and they've also have let go of Xavier Howard, and they've also let go of a couple of other really good pieces. So they're going to have to rebound this any way they possibly can. But Tua is not the future answer. Yes, he can give you some of the throws, but not all of them, like a Herbert or Mahomes or an Allen or a Burrow or Lamar. And by the way, without Tyreek Hill and without Jalen Waddle, didn't you guys pay attention to how Tua looked without those weapons? He did not look like a franchise quarterback. Not until Mike McDaniel got there. Once he started to figure it out, and once Tua became kind of that underdog under McDaniel's system, he got better. He got a little bit more efficient. But the truth is, because of Tua's capabilities, and I'm not going to go into Tua's injury history, because I think we kind of already understand that. But that's not the point. The point is, you are not going to get the most unbelievable and most dominant self out of Tua. It's very hard for a left-hander. And I'll give you another point. I think that if you're the Miami Dolphins, and I'm eyeballing a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. Now, they're not desperate for a quarterback, but they certainly should be thinking about their future far ahead. Because this happens with a lot of franchises all the time. Look at Kansas City. I'll give you a perfect example of this whole thing right now with Tua. If you look at what Kansas City's successes was for, yes, they got Andy Reid. They got an offensive coach. Very, very capable, and he's very clever. Yes, they ended up getting Alex Smith from San Francisco. But Alex Smith was punching you in the playoffs. He was punching you the ticket into the playoffs almost every year, but he was not getting you over the top to win the big game. That's when Mahomes happened. Started 2 games towards the end of the season, and then when it came to his full starting year, that is where things changed. And initially, once you figure this out, Tua will not be the future answer at all in your franchise. He will not be. I'm tired of people basically saying that, Tua's great. Tua's better than Herbert. Tua's better than Josh Allen. Yeah, well, if that was the case, why did Miami struggle to win the division against Buffalo? Oh, I know why. Look at the difference. I'm not talking about physical build, but look at the difference between Josh Allen and Tua. Josh Allen is not only just physically gifted, but look at the way that he spreads the offense. And maybe part of that is because of Brian Daboll, because he's had smart coaches. And probably because even if you look at his physical build, he's capable of throwing the deep ball. He just needed to refine himself a little bit more, and he has. Now, losing Daboll, things did change. He started throwing more picks. He needed to get a little bit more under control because this was not working with Ken Dorsey. But it was certainly working a little bit with Joe Brady. But Josh Allen is winning your division multiple times. But by the way, losing Stephon Diggs was not only a hurt, it was not even that big of a hurtful loss. Yes, it was a loss. But if you think about it, I saw the percentage, what it was of the Bills making the playoffs, and the only dip losing Stephon Diggs was 10%. That's it. 10%. which means the original, like 80% for the Bills to make the playoffs with Stephon Diggs. After he's gone, it only went to 70%. So what does that tell you? They are making the playoffs one way or another. Winning the division or clinching the wild card spot. That's the only thing that the Bills are doing. Whereas for Miami and Tua, they went to the playoffs this year, got absolutely handed to in cold weather, which you can clearly see. The difference with Tua, he has to have a perfect situation all the time around him. It's got to be sunny. It's got to be 75 degrees. It's got to be South Beach weather where you've got women in bikinis every day. It's got to be the perfect situation for Tua in order for him to be efficient. Where Josh Allen is the opposite. Josh Allen could be in both warm and cold weather, but yet still is able to sling the ball even in cold weather. And many people complain, why is the playoffs always in Buffalo or Kansas City or in Philadelphia or even in San Francisco? That's because all those teams all play to the best of their strengths. San Francisco has a track record of winning. And by the way, they just so happen to have gotten blessed with Brock Purdy, a smart IQ quarterback, which means Kyle Shanahan has a quarterback that could at the very least spread the ball to all of his offensive weapons, all of them. That's including Christian McCaffrey, and he does majority of the running. Then you've got Philadelphia with the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts, and with that offense, they are taking a mulligan this year because they got two new coordinators again. Then you've got Buffalo with Josh Allen, and yes, you are going to need two receivers this season. Yes, you will. They may go and trade and grab one, either because the talks were about T. Higgins, and maybe that might still be going on. We don't know yet. But they certainly might end up going and getting a receiver, and they're definitely going to draft one or two of them, and they should. Because Buffalo, you're going to need to recover with both your ones and twos, much like the Chargers have to. But you also look at Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes, he didn't have any star receivers. He had to naturally build up Rashee Rice. That's the difference. With Tua, without Tyreek Hill, and without Jalen Waddle, without Mike McDaniel for that point, Tua is just your average quarterback. I'm sorry, Dolphin fans. You could come at me with pitchforks and torches all you want. But I'm telling you right now, if you don't think that organization with Stephen Ross and with Mike McDaniel, if you don't think that organization is paying attention to the quarterbacks in this draft this year, you don't think they might potentially draft one? If Michael Penix falls into the second round, you don't think they might consider drafting him? You don't think they might consider drafting Joe Milton? I mean, there are multiple quarterbacks that can go in this draft. It doesn't matter the draft order. All I'm saying is I'm the kind that likes to have my glass half full because I like to have open opinions and open thoughts. But I guarantee you, if you close this window on this whole thing, don't be surprised when it literally breaks right open so fast, and then all of a sudden you have no answer to it because they basically drafted a quarterback because you can already tell where they drew the line with Tua. And I like Tua, but he is not entirely the Dolphins franchise, and you already knew that right off the bat. He's not doing with what Herbert did for the Chargers when they moved off Phillip Rivers. He's not doing with what Mahomes did, even though they groomed him up perfectly and they groomed him up in the right situation. But yet still, even without star receivers, he still won 2 Super Bowls. He still did. Back to back. He's not doing with what Josh Allen's doing until finally Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs. So Tua's not doing that. If you took away a lot of Tua's weapons, I mean, good Lord. That would be the most unbelievable thing. And at the same time, it proves a point. Tua cannot overcome adversities when his back's against the wall. Go ahead, Dolphin fans. Go ahead. Come at me with your pitchforks. Go ahead and sham on me all you want. But I'm telling you, I already argued with a Tua defender for 2 days. And I'm literally had a migraine for those 2 days. I'm serious. I had such a mad migraine all throughout the weekend. And I should have known better. But at the same time, you can't dismiss the fact that Tua is just an average quarterback with a great offensive mind. That's all Tua will be. That's all Tua is. Tua's not going to win you a Super Bowl. No matter how many times people try to defend him and say that Tua's better than Herbert, Tua's better than Josh Allen, Tua's better than Burrow. I don't want to hear this crap. Miami, you got to really look at yourself in the mirror, and I think you might be in pure denial. I don't know what it might be, but somebody's got to, at the very least, give you the come to Jesus pills, because you're probably going to end up taking them right after this draft night. By the time they probably go and they get a quarterback, I guarantee you that is what is going to be the deal. All right, time now for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff all around in our news press. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to get in with Major League Baseball here at some point. But as of right now, we got ourselves some news. All right. So as many people have talked about with women's basketball, so South Carolina and Iowa at the end of the weekend was the most watched women's title game since 2019. It was the most watched. And this has only been the sporting event that drew a bigger TV audience since 2019 has been football, the World Cup, and the Olympics. The audience's numbers are expected to increase when Nielsen releases its final numbers tomorrow, but he said the audience peaked at 24 million views. 24 million. Would you believe that? Because the most watched basketball game in 2019 was the men's title game between Virginia and Texas Tech that averaged about 19.6 million on CBS. So, and we got tonight's men's final between UConn and Purdue, which is being shown on TBS and TNT. So tune into your local stations. But it's possible that this year will be the first year the women's title game drew a bigger audience. And you know what? I'm happy for the women's sports as a whole, because the fact that this was arguably the greatest year that women will never forget. I mean, Caitlin Clark drew such a crowd because you're arguably looking at one of the most polarizing women athletes ever. And so in the end, it was by far the most dominant, and it was absolutely incredible. I was so happy to just end up seeing the success that Caitlin Clark has done and has basically given for the sport, and I hope for the absolute best of successes in the WNBA. All right, so the sources right now that going around in the NFL. So the New England Patriots have basically signed one of their returning stars to a 4-year contract, and no, it's not offense. Instead, the New England Patriots are signing Kyle Duggar, their safety, to a 4-year, $58 million contract extension. So that includes $32 million guaranteed, and he'll be making well average $14.5 million. So once again, the New England Patriots are proving they are a defensive culture. Whether it's Belichick or it's Gerard Mayo, they are a defensive culture. But either way, you are not going to end up losing your top defensive safety in the backfield that you know in a division with Josh Allen and in a division with Aaron Rodgers, and let alone a division with Tua and weapons. You are not going to lose your best safety from there. So good for Kyle Duggar and good for the Patriots, but you already know that they are, in fact, a defensive culture. And so, in the end, Kyle Duggar is actually going to be, like, Kyle Duggar for 4 years. I think it's perfect. I think it's great. They shaped up their defense this way. They've locked in their defense. It'll be interesting to see what Jerod Mayo really, really does. But I think in the end, it's going to be great. So, good for Kyle Duggar and good for the Patriots. Final story as we basically wrap it up with the news. So the Sacramento Kings G League coach, Lindsey Harding, is interviewing for the Charlotte Hornets job. So the Hornets job right now is not filled. It's unoccupied. So right now they're looking for the next head coach. And I mean, recently they had fired their coach. They knew that this was not working. And in the end, like, Charlotte is honestly, and I've said it for years, is that they are just a developmental organization in the NBA. So Lindsey Harding, in her first season as a coach of the Stockton Kings, she was voted the 2024 G League Coach of the Year and advanced her team to the Western Conference Finals, where Charlotte was granted permission on Monday to interview for the job. Harding is 39 years old. She was the number 1 overall pick in the 2007 WNBA draft, played 9 seasons in the league before joining the Sixers and the Kings as a development coach. Hornets coach Steve Clifford will be moving into a front office role at the end of the season, which will allow new executive vice president of basketball operations, Jeff Peterson, to begin the search that already includes receiving permission to interview Denver Nuggets assistant David Edelman, Kings assistant Jordy Fernandez, Celtics' Charles Lee, and the Suns' Kevin Young. So it'll be interesting to see what Charlotte really, really does, but that's interesting. I would have never thought of that, and I think we might be moving into a pivotal role that if we have a first ever woman head coach in the NBA, that's going to change a lot. And think about it. We tried to do this initially with Becky Hammon. And I love Becky Hammon. Becky Hammon's a badass. When you watch her coach with the Aces, she's undeniably one of the best. Doesn't matter if she's a woman. She's been around. She's been around Greg Popovich for a long time. Learned the Spurs. Learned exactly the culture. He learned exactly the schematics that they were playing. And so, why not? It'll be interesting to watch for the next couple of years. I'd be down for it, but Charlotte needs something because they're a development organization. But I think that this would be fun to have in the NBA. I'll pay to watch it, for real. So, all right, that's going to do it here for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
I just really got to say something before we head on to at least a short break, because we're going to basically be talking about, we've been talking about Stephon Diggs now for the last couple of years, or for the last couple of days, I'm sorry, but we've been talking about it for the last couple of days because of how big the trade was and then all the rest of it, but I'm going to leave that for at least close to wrapping up the show. But I do want to talk about this, okay? I've grown up a baseball fan ever since I was in diapers. Okay, and baseball to me has always shaped up my life. And we know Major League Baseball is in full swing. We're already at 11, 12 games already to start the season. But what is the deal with everybody freaking out while we're even in the start of the season? I don't even care, and I don't pay attention to it until we're literally in mid-season. So by the time that we get to All-Star break, that's the one time I do pay attention to baseball, because I got nothing to basically speak about, because a lot of things could change within the coming weeks. But baseball, we can at the very least admit it's great to have it back. There's multiple stories. But people are basically freaking out over like, oh, Shohei Ohtani go to the Dodgers. They're hating on the Dodgers because of the gambling thing. I've been hearing that from my old man for like days. And sometimes I have to literally I have to be the dog owner that basically whenever the dog's barking, I have to be the one to basically throw him a bone, rub his belly for a little bit until he calms down. Folks, it doesn't have to be that serious when it comes to baseball. Seriously. I mean, good God. You know what I'm doing this week? I'm going to an Alesso concert at Red Rocks on Thursday. You might even see me there. That's fine. But I'm going to be out. My wife and I are going to be living our lives without even screaming obscenities at the television, throwing beers, getting all obnoxiously drunk, and just getting all pissed off because, the Dodgers lost the series to the Cubs, or the A's are moving to Sacramento, or, or the Mets are just basically terrible. Give me a break. The season only just started in 11, 12 games. I mean, go read a book. Do something. Honestly, I love baseball just as much as you do, but I'm not going to freak out over this crap. I'm just going to continue to live my life. Hell, we're going to be enjoying a show. I'm going to be popping at least, probably a couple of beers to enjoy myself, enjoy great music, enjoy life, and enjoy my marriage. That's all I'm going to do. I love my wife that much that I'm just I'm not going to be out there being an obnoxious idiot and just going to be screaming at the television because baseball is literally 12 games in and you're already freaking out over this stuff. I mean, hell, we're trying to plan for our honeymoon, for God's sakes. I'm going to be out there. I don't know where we're going to be at. We're probably going to be down in Mexico. We probably might be down in the Bahamas. We might be in Jamaica. Hell, we might be all the way in the Mediterranean. I don't care. I'm going to be all around from there, drinking up cocktails. I'm going to be kicking my feet up. I'm going to be right there up into the beach, and I'm just going to basically enjoy myself. Hell, my wife and I, we're going to be living our lives like what normal human beings really do. I'm not going to be screaming for hours and hours at a television because baseball, a lot of stuff's happening in 12 games. It's 162 games for a reason. It's a long-ass season. Calm down. I read a book. Read an audio book. Seriously. Or binge watch some of your favorite shows. Or go on vacation. Some of you might need that. Okay? I know we just started the year and we're in April, but maybe some of you might need a vacation. And it's okay. It's okay to go on vacation, but I'm not going to be the drunk, obnoxious idiot to just basically throw my beer at the television because apparently some sort of call, or basically you're saying that they hate the Dodgers. They're always going after the Dodgers. Give me a break. Give me a break. Honestly. I mean, look at it. If I go to New Mexico, which is, you got to tell me what's all there in New Mexico. Seriously. I've come from a high desert in Vegas. I'm used to desert. But even though, we're the entertainment capital of the world, but hey, I'd love to see what New Mexico has. I'll make a vacation out of it. I don't care. But calm down. Calm down. Take a vacation. Take a vacation. Enjoy a few cocktails out on the beach. Kick your feet up and just enjoy it. We're 12 games in. What the hell are we doing? This is 12 out of 162 games. What are we screaming obscenities for? I don't get it. I don't get it. What? All right. Take a quick break, and we're going to be talking a little bit more on Stephon Diggs. You don't want to end up missing that here on the Snake Sports Talk Show.
Robert Lyle hosts Between the Lines podcast, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, folks. Well, as we only got about 5 minutes left until the show officially closes, I just basically wanted to touch upon this. So the Houston Texans, they've acquired Stephon Diggs, and that automatically already raises the bar with where the Texans are going to basically be at, because a lot of people are thinking it's AFC Championship or bust at this point. I mean, some people would think this, but the smartest thing that the Houston Texans could do, now this happened at least a couple days ago, but the Texans agreed to pay off the remainder of the 3 years that Stephon Diggs had on his contract. And what they're telling him is that, look, we love your talents and we'd be willing to pay you more. But this drama that apparently seems to be circling around from his days in Minnesota, from his days in Buffalo, you got to get straight. I don't think Stephon Diggs defines the Houston Texans' success. I think what defines it is DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud and Tank Dell and Will Anderson in that defense. Okay, they have gotten an awful lot out of defensive players. They did. It was an overhaul. They've got Azeez Al-Shakir. They've got Danielle Hunter. They got Danico Autry. And they've got Jeff Okudah, and they got multiple others. The Texans have definitely built themselves up very well. And I have been very excited about it. So I think the Texans are definitely going to be primed to be winning their division. I think they're definitely going to be primed to winning multiple playoff games. And who knows if they do make the AFC Championship. That'd be fun to watch. I'm only holding that door up. I'm not going to talk Super Bowl quite yet until we really see in like 5 games. You give me 5 games of that offense and that defense, I promise you things will definitely change. But I think the Texans are doing the right thing in doing Stephon a solid. But then at the same time, they're saying, Stephon, you got to get rid of this drama. Okay, and that's the whole point of it. So in the end, I think it's perfect. I think you wipe a clean slate, see how he rolls with CJ Stroud in this offense. And if this works, then you could pay up a contract. Houston can afford it, unlike other organizations that have to basically restructure and basically get back some of the money they lost. They could do that. Houston can afford it. But I think ultimately it's a want. It's not a need. They don't need Stephon Diggs. They want Stephon Diggs, and they like Stephon Diggs. So that was the whole point of it with even going with the trade in the first place. But it's even more of a want by the time that they ended up paying off the remaining 3 years. So let's see how it goes. I don't think, in the end, I don't think this is not going, it's not going to work. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be very, very fun to watch. Very entertaining. But I got to be honest with you. I mean, when you think of players like that, even though that they are very, very talented, but if you come with baggage, You got to be able to look at them in the face, and you really got to basically be straight with them. You got to be straight with the coaches. You got to be straight with your quarterback. So I'm not saying that he looks as if he brings drama, but sometimes if drama follows you, people like if you've got closest friends and you know that you're basically in the trenches somewhere where you're trying to set the tone straight, you got to be willing to set the tone straight. That people would not look at you one way. They'll look at you for what you truthfully are. And that's what it is, because you're a true, authentic self. So I think that's what the Texans are asking of Stephon Diggs. Be your true self. Have fun. Develop the relationship with CJ Stroud. And I think in the end, it'll be great. It'll work out perfectly. Oh, look at that. You're going to the game up on Friday. Definitely take up some pictures, Silky. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Now, see that? I agree that if you're mad when you were watching sports, you need to get away. Yes, you do. You need to get away more. Seriously, guys, take a vacation for God's sakes. NFL hasn't even started yet, and we already had free agency. We're going to have the draft that's going to be amazing in the end, and I think it'll be the best offseason that the NFL has had now. It'll be the best. But I think in the end, you look at how the NFL is basically shaped up, and I think in the end, it'll be absolutely outstanding. But again, they didn't need Stephon Diggs. They wanted him. So it'll be great. There you go. Super excited about it. There you go. All right, folks, that's going to conclude it here up on the show. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and hanging out with me. And of course, as you know, we've also got our live that are going on as well. Appreciate everybody that is joining the live on my right. Live up on Roku, live on iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your streams and podcasts. We are all over. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me. Like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell button. Keep you up to date on future and past shows. We've got some interviews lined up for you this week because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I am offline because I am going to my first ever Red Rocks concert. I'm going to go and see Alesso. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. Birthday present from the wifey. Absolutely appreciate it. I've never been to Red Rocks, but I've heard amazing things here in Colorado. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, a lot of all of our obnoxious drunkies that are up out there who are basically screaming obscenities on Major League Baseball, you go have fun with that. I'm going to go and have fun enjoying music, enjoying cocktails. I'm going to have a great time. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate all of you guys for hopping on, and we will see you on the next edition of the Snake Sports Talk Show. See you later, guys.